Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Khan. I am 21 years old, and today I want to share my real English learning story with you. This is not a story about becoming perfect in one day. This is not a story where everything was easy. This is the story of a normal girl who was afraid to speak English. A girl who understood many English words, but still became silent when she had to speak. A girl who made many mistakes. A girl who felt nervous in front of people. A girl who compared herself with others. A girl who sometimes wanted to give up. But slowly, step by step, I changed. I did not become fluent because of magic. I became better because of small daily practice, courage, patience, and consistency. I wanted to learn English for many reasons. First, I wanted confidence. Whenever someone spoke English in front of me, I felt small inside. I had thoughts like, why can't I speak like this? Why do I become nervous? Why do words disappear from my mind? Second, I wanted better opportunities. I knew English could help me in studies, interviews, jobs, online learning, and communication with more people. Third, I wanted to express myself. I had thoughts, I had ideas, I had dreams. But because my English was weak, I could not express them clearly. That feeling was painful. So one day I decided, I will not run away from English anymore. I will learn it slowly. I will speak even with mistakes. I will practice every day. And I will become confident. In this story, I will share my journey in 4 parts. Part 1 is about my beginning, my fear, and why English felt so difficult. Part 2 is about how I started practicing English every day. Part 3 is about the mistakes, struggles, and methods that helped me improve. Part 4 is about how English changed my confidence, my mindset, and my life. So, if you are also learning English, listen to my story carefully. Maybe you will find your own story inside my story. And maybe today, you will also feel, if she can improve, I can improve too. Part 1. The girl who wanted to speak fluent English. My name is Aisha Khan. I am 21 years old. I come from a simple middle-class family. I was not born in an English-speaking environment. At home, we did not speak English. With friends, I did not speak English. In my daily life, I mostly used my mother tongue. So English always felt like something outside my world. In school, I studied English as a subject. I learned grammar. I memorized answers. I wrote exams. I passed tests. But speaking English was a completely different thing. In exams, I could write something. But in real life, when someone asked me a simple question in English, I became nervous. Even if the question was easy, my mind became blank. For example, someone would ask, "Tell me about yourself." I knew the answer in my mind, but when I opened my mouth, I stopped. My heart started beating fast. My hands became cold. I started thinking too much. What should I say first? Is my grammar correct? What if I pronounce the word wrongly? What if people laugh? What if they think I am not smart? Because of these thoughts, I avoided speaking English. I smiled. I nodded. I gave short answers. Sometimes I said only, yes, no, okay, I don't know. Inside, I had many things to say, but outside, I stayed quiet. That silence hurt me. Because I was not quiet because I had no thoughts. I was quiet because I had fear. I remember one day in college. Our teacher asked students to give a small introduction in English. One by one, students stood up and spoke. Some spoke very fluently. Some made mistakes, but still they spoke confidently. Then my turn came. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. My teacher smiled and said, Aisha, introduce yourself. I wanted to say, my name is Aisha. I'm 21 years old. I'm interested in learning new things. I want to improve my communication skills and become confident. But I could not say all of that. I only said, my name is Aisha. I am from here. I am student. Then I stopped. My face became hot. I felt embarrassed. Some students did not laugh loudly, but I felt like they were judging me. Maybe they were not judging me. Maybe it was only my fear. But in that moment, I felt very small. After class, I went home and cried. Not because of one introduction. I cried because I was tired of feeling weak in English. I was tired of hiding. I was tired of having ideas but no confidence to speak. That day became important in my life. I asked myself, do I want to feel like this forever? The answer was no. I wanted to speak fluent English, not to show off, not to impress people, not to act superior. I wanted to speak English because I wanted freedom. Freedom to express myself. Freedom to answer questions. Freedom to attend interviews. Freedom to talk to people confidently. Freedom to learn from the world. Freedom to stop feeling small. But in the beginning, English looked like a mountain. A very big mountain. Grammar felt confusing. Vocabulary felt endless. Pronunciation felt difficult. Listening felt fast. Speaking felt scary. Whenever I watched English videos, I understood some words, but not everything. Whenever I tried to speak, I translated from my language to English. First, I thought in my own language. Then, I searched for English words. Then, I worried about grammar. Then, I worried about pronunciation. And finally, I became silent. This was my biggest problem. I was not thinking in English. I was translating. And translation made my speaking slow. I also had another problem. I wanted perfect English before speaking. I thought, when my grammar becomes perfect, then I will speak. When I learn more vocabulary, then I will speak. When my pronunciation becomes better, then I will speak. When I feel confident, then I will speak. But slowly I realized something. Confidence does not come before speaking. Confidence comes after speaking. If I waited for perfect English, I would never start. So I decided to begin with simple English. Very simple English. I told myself, Aisha, you do not need to speak like a native speaker today. You do not need advanced words today. You do not need perfect grammar today. You only need to start. This thought gave me some relief. I started accepting my level. I accepted that I was a beginner in speaking. I accepted that I would make mistakes. I accepted that my English would not sound perfect at first. But I also accepted that I could improve. That was the beginning of my real journey. The first change happened in my mindset. Before, I used to say, my English is bad. But then I changed it to, my English is improving. Before, I used to say, I cannot speak. Then I changed it to, I can speak slowly. Before, I used to say, I make mistakes. Then I changed it to, mistakes are part of learning. These small sentences helped me a lot, because English learning is not only about words and grammar, it is also about mindset. If your mind is full of fear, your mouth will not speak. But if your mind becomes a little brave, your mouth will slowly open. I also understood one important thing. Fluent English does not mean speaking difficult English. Fluent English means expressing ideas clearly and naturally. Even simple English can be fluent if you speak with confidence. For example, I did not need to say, I am extremely passionate about enhancing my communication abilities. I could simply say, I want to improve my communication skills. Simple, clear, correct, useful. This realization changed everything for me. I stopped chasing difficult English. I started building useful English. I started with sentences from my daily life. I am drinking water. I am going to college. I am feeling nervous. I want to learn English. I made a mistake, but I will try again. I need more practice. These sentences were small, but they were mine. I was finally using English. Not only reading it, not only watching it, not only memorizing it, I was using it, and that was the first step toward fluency. At that time, I was still not confident. I still made mistakes. I still felt nervous. I still forgot words. But something inside me had changed. I was no longer running away. I had started walking toward English, slowly, imperfectly, but honestly. And that was the real beginning of my English learning story. Part 2. How I started practicing English every day. After that day, I knew one thing clearly. If I wanted to speak English, I had to stop waiting. I could not wait for perfect grammar. I could not wait for perfect vocabulary. I could not wait for perfect confidence. I had to start with the English I already had. So I made a simple promise to myself. Every day I will do something for my English. Even if it is small, even if it is only 5 minutes, even if nobody notices, even if I make mistakes, I will practice. At first, I did not know where to start. There were so many videos online, so many teachers, so many grammar rules, so many tips, so many apps. I felt confused. One person said, learn grammar first. Another person said, watch movies. Another person said, speak with native speakers. Another person said, read books. Everything sounded useful, but my mind became overloaded. So I decided to keep my routine very simple. My first routine had only 3 things. Listen, repeat, speak. That was it. I told myself, Aisha, do not make English complicated. Just listen every day. Repeat useful sentences, and speak something aloud. This simple routine saved me, because when learning becomes too complicated, beginners feel tired and quit. But when learning is simple, we can continue. In the morning, I started listening to short English videos. Not very difficult videos. Not fast English. Not advanced lectures. I chose simple English videos that I could understand at least half of. At first, I understood only some words, but I did not stop. I listened again. I paused the video. I repeated sentences. For example, if the speaker said, "Today I want to talk about confidence," I repeated, "Today I want to talk about confidence." Then I changed the sentence. "Today I want to talk about English." "Today I want to talk about my goal." "Today I want to talk about my journey." This small practice was very helpful because I was not only listening, I was using the sentence. I learned that one good sentence can become many sentences. This helped me speak more naturally. Then I started a small notebook. I called it my English speaking notebook. I did not write difficult words in it. I wrote useful sentences, sentences I could use in real life. For example, I think, in my opinion, I agree with you. I am not sure. Can you explain it again? I want to improve my English. I need more practice. I made a mistake, but I learned from it. These sentences became my speaking tools. Before this, I was learning many random words, but I could not use them. Now I was learning full sentences, and full sentences helped me speak faster. I realized something important. Words are useful, but phrases and sentences are more useful for speaking. If you only learn the word confident, you may not know how to use it. But if you learn sentences like, I want to become confident. I feel more confident now. I am building my confidence. Then the word becomes useful. So I started learning English in sentences, not only single words. This was one of the best decisions in my English journey. After listening and writing useful sentences, I started speaking alone. Yes, alone. At first, it felt strange. I closed my room door and spoke to myself. I felt shy, even when nobody was watching. That is how much fear I had. But I continued. I started with very simple self-talk. In the morning, I said, I am waking up. I am drinking water. I am getting ready. I will practice English today. I will not give up. During the day, I said, I am going to college. I am walking on the road. I can see many people. The weather is hot today. I feel a little tired. At night, I said, today was a good day. I practiced English. I made some mistakes, but I am improving slowly. These sentences were not advanced, but they were real. They were connected to my daily life, and that made them powerful. Before this, English was only in my books. Now English was entering my life. My room became my classroom. My mirror became my speaking partner. My phone became my recorder. My daily routine became my English practice. I also started using the mirror method. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke for 1 minute. At first, I could not even look into my own eyes. I felt uncomfortable. I smiled nervously. I forgot sentences. And sometimes I laughed at myself. But slowly, I became more comfortable. I spoke simple lines. My name is Aisha. I am learning English. I want to become fluent. I know I make mistakes, but I will keep practicing. The mirror method helped me in 2 ways. First, it helped me speak aloud. Second, it helped me see my face and body language. I noticed when I looked nervous. I noticed when I spoke too softly. I noticed when I looked down. So I started improving my confidence slowly. I told myself, speak slowly. Look up. Do not rush. Do not be afraid of your own voice. This was not only English practice, it was confidence practice. Then I started recording my voice. This was very difficult in the beginning. The first time I heard my own English recording, I felt embarrassed. I thought, is this my voice? Do I really sound like this? My pronunciation is not good. I stop too much. My grammar is wrong. For a moment, I wanted to delete everything and stop, but then I reminded myself, this is not for shame. This is for improvement. So I listened again. This time, I listened like a learner, not like an enemy. I noticed small mistakes. For example, I said, I am go to college. Then I corrected it. I am going to college. I said, people is talking. Then I corrected it. People are talking. I said, today weather is very hot. Then I corrected it. The weather is very hot today. I did not correct everything. I only corrected 2 or 3 mistakes each day. This made learning easier. If I tried to correct all mistakes at once, I felt tired. But correcting small mistakes daily helped me improve without pressure. Recording my voice became one of my strongest habits because it showed me the truth. It showed me where I was weak, but it also showed me that I was improving. After 1 week, my speaking was still not perfect, but it was better than day 1. After 1 month, I could speak more smoothly. I still made mistakes, but I stopped less. I had more sentences ready in my mind. I had more confidence in my voice. That gave me motivation. Another practice I used was the question and answer method. I asked myself simple questions and answered them aloud. For example, what is your name? My name is Aisha. Why are you learning English? I am learning English because I want to speak with confidence. What is your biggest problem? My biggest problem is hesitation. How will you improve? I will practice every day and speak even with mistakes. This method was very useful because real conversation is full of questions and answers. Before this practice, when someone asked me a question in English, I panicked. But after practicing questions alone, my mind became faster. I did not need to create every answer from zero. I already had some patterns. For example, I think, I feel, I want, I need. I believe, in my opinion. These small sentence starters helped me a lot. Then I started practicing 1-minute speaking. I chose one topic and spoke for 1 minute. My first topics were very simple. My family, my daily routine, my favorite food, my college, my English journey, my best friend, my dream. At first, 1 minute felt very long. After 20 seconds, I stopped. I repeated the same sentence again and again. I forgot words. I made grammar mistakes, but I did not stop the practice. I told myself, even if I repeat, continue. Even if I make mistakes, continue. Even if the sentence is simple, continue. Slowly, I learned how to extend my speaking. I used a simple formula: topic, opinion, reason, example, experience, ending. For example, if the topic was English, I said, "Today I want to talk about English. I think English is very important because it helps us communicate with more people." For example, many books, videos, and interviews are in English. In my experience, English feels difficult in the beginning, but daily practice makes it easier. So I believe everyone can improve English step by step. This formula helped me speak longer. Before, I only gave short answers. Now I could explain. That was a big change. I also changed the way I used social media. Before, I used social media only for entertainment. I watched random videos. I scrolled for hours. I wasted time. But then I decided to turn social media into my English practice place. I started following English learning pages. I watched short English reels. I listened to simple English stories. I saved useful phrases. I read comments in English. Sometimes I wrote small comments too. At first, I wrote very simple comments like, "Very useful," "Nice explanation," "I am learning English." This helped me. Later, I wrote longer comments. "This video is very helpful for beginners like me." I learned 3 new sentences from this lesson. I will practice these phrases today. This helped me use English in a real way. I was not only studying English privately, I was slowly entering English spaces. I also started thinking in English during small moments. This was difficult at first because my brain always used my mother tongue. But I started with very small thoughts. I am hungry. I need water. I am tired. This is good. I like this. I will study now. Slowly, I made bigger thoughts. I am feeling nervous, but I will try. I have to complete my work today. I want to improve my speaking confidence. This sentence is useful for daily conversation. Thinking in English helped me reduce translation. Before, I translated every sentence. That made my speaking slow. But when I started thinking small thoughts in English, my brain became more comfortable. I learned that thinking in English does not mean thinking in advanced English. It means using simple English inside your mind. That is enough in the beginning. The most important thing in part 2 of my journey was consistency. I did not practice for 5 hours one day and then stop for 10 days. No, I practiced a little every day. Some days I practiced only 10 minutes. Some days, 20 minutes. Some days only 5 minutes. But I did not break the connection. This helped English become part of my routine. I learned that English improves when it becomes daily, not occasional. Not only before exams, not only when motivation comes. Daily, just like brushing teeth, just like drinking water, just like walking. English also needs daily contact. During this time, I was still not fluent. I was still not fully confident. I still made mistakes. But I was changing. My fear was becoming smaller. My speaking habit was becoming stronger. My mind was becoming more positive. And for the first time, I started believing, maybe I can really do this. That belief was very important, because before my English improved outside, my belief improved inside. I stopped seeing myself as a weak English learner. I started seeing myself as a learner who was growing, slowly, honestly, daily. And that changed everything. Part 3. The mistakes, struggles, and methods that changed my English. As days passed, I started feeling a small change. I was not fluent yet. I was not speaking like a perfect English speaker. But I was no longer completely afraid of English. That was a big victory for me. Before, English felt like a wall. Now English started feeling like a road that was long, a road that was difficult, but a road I could walk on. Still, my journey was not easy. There were many days when I felt disappointed. Some days I practiced well. Some days I felt motivated. Some days I spoke clearly. But other days I forgot everything. I made the same mistakes again and again. I stopped while speaking. I felt nervous. I compared myself with fluent speakers. And sometimes I asked myself, am I really improving? Why is my English still not natural? Why do I still make basic mistakes? Why do I still feel scared? This was the hardest part of my journey. Starting was difficult, but continuing was even more difficult. Because in the beginning, motivation is high. You feel excited. You feel ready. You feel like everything will change quickly. But after some time, real struggle begins. You realize English needs patience. English needs practice. English needs repetition. English needs courage. And most importantly, English needs time. One of my biggest struggles was grammar fear. Whenever I spoke, I worried about grammar. Is this sentence correct? Should I say go or goes? Should I say did or done? Should I say in or on? Should I say I am agree or I agree? These small things made me nervous because I wanted every sentence to be correct before speaking. But then I learned something important. If I tried to correct every sentence before speaking, I would never speak naturally. So I made a rule for myself. Speak first, correct later. This rule changed my confidence. For example, one day I said, she go to college every day. Then I corrected myself. She goes to college every day. Another day I said, I am not understand. Then I corrected it. I do not understand. Another day I said, yesterday I go market. Then I corrected it. Yesterday I went to the market. I stopped hating myself for mistakes. I started using mistakes as lessons. This was a big mindset change. Before, mistakes made me feel ashamed. Now mistakes became my teachers. I understood that mistakes are not the opposite of learning. Mistakes are part of learning. Another struggle was pronunciation. I could read some words, but I was not sure how to say them. Sometimes I pronounced words wrongly. Sometimes I spoke too fast. Sometimes I spoke too softly. Sometimes my voice was not clear, so I started practicing pronunciation in a simple way. I did not try to sound like a native speaker. I only tried to speak clearly. That was my goal. Clear English, not perfect accent. Clear English. I started repeating short sentences slowly. For example, I want to improve my English. I am practicing every day. Mistakes are part of learning. I can speak slowly and clearly. I am becoming more confident. I repeated these sentences many times. Slowly, clearly, with full voice. I also listened to simple English videos and copied the speaker. Not full videos, only small parts. If the speaker said one sentence, I paused and repeated it. Then I repeated again. Then again. At first it felt boring, but later I understood that repetition builds fluency. A singer repeats songs, a dancer repeats steps, a player repeats practice. So why should an English learner not repeat sentences? Repetition is not boring when you understand its power. Repetition trains the mouth. Repetition trains the brain. Repetition makes sentences automatic, and automatic sentences help you speak faster. Another big struggle was vocabulary. Sometimes I wanted to say something, but I did not know the exact word. In the past, if I forgot one word, I stopped completely. But later, I learned a very useful method. Explain the meaning with simple words. For example, if I forgot the word umbrella, I could say, the thing we use when it rains. If I forgot the word expensive, I could say, it costs a lot of money. If I forgot the word confused, I could say, I do not understand clearly. If I forgot the word improve, I could say, make it better. This helped me continue speaking. I learned that fluency does not mean knowing every word. Fluency means you can continue even when you forget a word. That was a very powerful lesson. Because before, one missing word could stop my whole sentence. But now I had a solution. If I forget, I explain. If I cannot say it perfectly, I say it simply. If I do not know the advanced word, I use easy words. Simple English saved me many times. Another method that helped me was learning phrases, not only words. Before, I used to learn single words. Confidence, important, practice, improve, difficult, opportunity. But when I wanted to speak, I did not know how to use them properly. So I started learning phrases. For example, build confidence. This is important. I need more practice. I want to improve. It feels difficult. This is a good opportunity. These phrases helped me speak more naturally. Then I made my own sentences. I want to build confidence. English is important for my future. I need more speaking practice. I want to improve my pronunciation. Speaking feels difficult in the beginning. Learning English can give me better opportunities. This was very useful, because speaking is not made from single words only. Speaking is made from useful word groups. Phrases are like ready tools. When you have them, speaking becomes easier. I also started using a simple formula whenever I had to speak on a topic. Opinion, reason, example. This formula helped me when my mind went blank. For example, topic, English. Opinion. I think English is very important. Reason. Because it helps us communicate with more people. Example. For example, many interviews, videos, and online courses use English. Now I had a complete answer. Topic. Health. Opinion. I think health is more important than money. Reason. Because if we are not healthy, we cannot enjoy life properly. Example. For example, a rich person with poor health may still feel unhappy. This formula gave structure to my speaking. Before, I had words but no direction. Now I had a method. Start with opinion. Give reason. Give example. This helped me speak longer and more clearly. Another important thing I did was practice with daily topics. I made a list of simple topics: my family, my daily routine, my favorite food, my college, my dream, my English journey, my best friend, my phone, my city, my future goal. Every day, I picked one topic and spoke for 1 minute. At first, I repeated many lines. My speech was not smooth, but slowly I improved. For example, when I spoke about my daily routine, I said, I wake up in the morning, I drink water, I get ready for college. I try to practice English every day. At night, I record my voice and listen to my mistakes. This was simple, but it was real. It was connected to my life. And because it was connected to my life, I could remember it easily. Then I practiced the same topic again after a few days. This time, I spoke better. I added more details. I used better sentences. That is when I realized something. Repeating the same topic is not bad. Repeating the same topic makes you better. The first time, you struggle. The second time, you improve. The third time, you become more confident. This is how fluency grows. Another struggle was listening. When native speakers or fluent speakers talked fast, I could not understand everything. I felt frustrated. I thought, why is English so fast? But later, I understood that I should not start with very fast English. I needed level-wise listening. So I started listening to simple English first. Slow English stories, beginner podcasts, short motivational videos, simple conversations, English learning videos. I listened to the same audio many times. First time, I understood some words. Second time, I understood more. Third time, I caught full sentences. Fourth time, I started repeating. This method helped me a lot. I learned that listening once is not enough. Listening again and again makes English familiar. And when English becomes familiar to the ears, it becomes easier for the mouth. I also started doing a small listening practice. I listened for 2 minutes. Then I stopped the video. Then I explained what I understood in my own English. For example, if the video was about confidence, I said, "This video is about confidence. The speaker says that confidence comes from practice. We should not wait for perfect confidence. We should take action and improve slowly." This method improved my listening and speaking together. I was not only consuming English, I was using English. That made a big difference. Another emotional struggle was comparison. I used to compare myself with other students. Some people spoke English naturally. Some people had better pronunciation. Some people used better vocabulary. Some people answered quickly in class. When I listened to them, I felt small. I thought, they are so good. I am so slow. I will never speak like them. But slowly I learned that comparison was stealing my confidence. I did not know their full journey. Maybe they had more practice. Maybe they had better environment. Maybe they started earlier. Maybe they also struggled before. I was comparing my beginning with someone else's progress. That was not fair. So I stopped asking, why am I not like them? I started asking, am I better than I was yesterday? This question helped me. If yesterday I spoke only 2 sentences, and today I spoke 4 sentences, that was progress. If last week I was afraid to record my voice, and this week I recorded 1 minute, that was progress. If last month I could not speak about myself, and now I could speak for 1 minute, that was progress. Small progress became my motivation. I also created a rule. Compare less. Practice more. Because comparison wastes energy. Practice builds skill. Another thing that changed my journey was speaking with real people. For a long time, I practiced alone, but I knew that one day I had to speak with others. So I started small. I did not start with big conversations. I started with one English sentence. With a friend, I said, "Let us speak English for 5 minutes." At first, we both laughed. We made mistakes. Sometimes we mixed English with our mother tongue, but we continued. We asked simple questions. How was your day? What did you eat? What are you doing? What is your plan? Why do you want to learn English? These small conversations helped me reduce fear. I understood that real conversation does not need perfect English. It needs connection. It needs courage. It needs listening. It needs response. Sometimes I could not answer quickly. Sometimes I used wrong grammar. Sometimes I forgot words. But I did not run away. I stayed in the conversation. That was my victory. I also started speaking English in small public situations. Not big speeches, only small sentences. In a shop, I tried, "Can I get 1 bottle of water?" In college, I tried, "Can you explain this again?" With a classmate, I tried, "I did not understand this part." With a teacher, I tried, "Ma'am, I want to improve my speaking." These small, real-life sentences gave me confidence, because English was no longer only practice. English was becoming useful. Another important method was writing before speaking. Sometimes, when I could not speak about a topic, I wrote a few lines first. For example, if the topic was my dream, I wrote, "My dream is to become a confident person. I want to speak English fluently. I want to learn new skills and help my family. I know it will take time, but I am ready to work." Then I read it aloud. Then I closed the notebook and tried to speak it in my own words. This method helped me organize my thoughts. Writing gave me clarity. Speaking gave me confidence. Together, they helped me improve. But the biggest change came when I stopped waiting for motivation. Before, I practiced only when I felt motivated. But motivation is not stable. Some days it comes, some days it disappears. So I built discipline. I told myself, even if I do not feel like practicing, I will practice for 5 minutes. 5 minutes looked small, but it kept me connected. On bad days, I did only 5 minutes. On good days, I did more. This helped me stay consistent, and consistency changed everything. After some months, I noticed real improvement. I could introduce myself better. I could speak about my day. I could explain simple topics. I could understand more videos. I could think in English sometimes. I could answer questions without freezing completely. I still made mistakes, but I was not the same girl anymore. The girl who once cried after a small introduction was now recording her voice, speaking with friends, and practicing daily topics. That felt powerful. Not because I had become perfect, but because I had become brave. And that is what English learning taught me. English did not only teach me a language, it taught me courage. It taught me patience. It taught me consistency. It taught me how to face fear. It taught me how to keep going even when progress is slow. By the end of this part of my journey, I understood one thing clearly. Fluency is not built in one day. Fluency is built through small, brave actions repeated every day. One sentence, one mistake, one correction, one recording, one conversation, one practice session, one more try. That is how I started changing. And slowly, English became less scary and more natural for me. Part 4. How English changed my confidence, my mindset, and my life. Slowly, English started changing my life. Not in one day, not suddenly, But day by day, sentence by sentence, mistake by mistake, practice by practice. At first, I thought English was only a language. But later, I understood that English was changing something deeper inside me. It was changing my confidence. It was changing my mindset. It was changing the way I looked at myself. Before, I was a shy girl. I became nervous in front of people. I stayed quiet even when I had many thoughts inside. But after months of practice, I started seeing myself differently. I started saying, I am learning. I am improving. I can speak. I can grow. That small belief changed me. One day in college, our teacher asked us to speak about our goals. Before, I would feel scared. My heart would beat fast. My mind would go blank. But this time, I stood up. I was nervous, but I was ready. I took a deep breath and said, my goal is to become confident. I want to improve my communication skills and speak English clearly. I know I am still learning, but daily practice can change my life. Nobody laughed. My teacher smiled and said, good, Aisha. Your confidence is improving. That sentence stayed in my heart. For the first time, someone noticed my progress. After that day, I started speaking more. Not perfectly, but bravely. Sometimes I stopped. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I searched for words. But I did not hide anymore. I asked questions. I joined discussions. I gave a small presentation. I watched English videos. I started learning from teachers around the world. Then I understood something important. English is not only a subject. English is a door to knowledge, a door to confidence, a door to communication, a door to better opportunities, a door to the world. But the biggest change was inside me. I became less afraid of people's opinions. Before, I always worried, what will they think? What if they laugh? What if I make a mistake? But slowly, I learned that people's opinions are not stronger than my growth. My journey is mine. English taught me self-respect. Every day I practiced, I was telling myself, my voice matters. My growth matters. My future matters. One day, I listened to my old voice recording. My voice was low. My sentences were broken. I sounded scared. Then I listened to my new recording. I was still not perfect, but I sounded clearer, stronger, more confident, and tears came to my eyes, because I remembered the girl who once cried after failing to introduce herself. I remembered the girl who thought English was impossible. And then I realized I was still learning, but I was not the same. That moment taught me a beautiful lesson. Sometimes you do not notice your growth every day, but one day you look back and realize you have come so far. So never give up too early. Maybe today you can speak only one sentence. Speak it. Maybe today you can practice only 5 minutes. Practice. Maybe today you make mistakes. Make them and learn. Because one day, your small practice can become confidence. Your confidence can become communication. And your communication can become opportunity. English is not magic, but English can give you access to knowledge, access to people, access to confidence, access to a better version of yourself. This was my real English learning story. I started as a girl who was afraid to speak, but I changed because I started. I changed because I practiced. I changed because I stopped running away. English gave me confidence. English gave me courage. English helped me express myself. And most importantly, English taught me that I can grow. If I can improve, you can improve too. Your English journey may be slow. Your mistakes may be many. But do not stop. The English you are afraid to speak today can become the English that changes your life tomorrow. So keep learning, keep speaking, keep improving. And never forget this: you do not become fluent by staying silent. You become fluent by speaking again and again. This is my story, and now it is your turn to write yours.